really? I thought it'd be 25 minutes long.
Well, this is about what we think our problems are. The first one, sex.
My problems with sex? I've got too much personality for sex.
Yes, we're shooting now.
Woo!
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay, the first subject is sex.
Oh my, I'd like more of that.
I'll continue more. Okay, my first problem is I've got too much personality for sex. And I think, I suppose, the whole system that we're living in is just sort of, it's reflected in me as well. I suppose, it's hard to say. I don't know, I think sometimes, you're meant to, like everything in life, I think sometimes I think of sex as a competition. And that you're always trying to upgrade your last experience to a better version. And you just want to get the perfect thing. But on the flip side of that, you feel yourself not good enough and not worth enough. And especially when you're measuring yourself through sex. So it's sort of this mad mixture of trying to achieve the impossible and then at the same time feeling yourself completely unworthy of it.
I think probably your first reaction, like when you take an exam, your first guess is probably the best guess. So you say sex and I say, ooh, I want more of that. That's probably indicative of my sex problems, and just that I don't have any sex. That's the problem.
I have problems because it's something I like so much, I can't just ruin it doing it with anyone. So I have this problem. I have to be really involved in the person. Not that I have to like them personally, but just I have to feel a strong chemistry so that then I know that the sex will be great. Because bad sex is something very bad.
It's mostly romance, not sex, that I have a problem with. Like, I mean, the sex is fine. Sex comes so fucking easy in this city. It's ridiculous. It's just the idea that you meet everyone, you know, so haphazardly in some sort of club, and like, you know, whatever, you hit it off and everyone's drunk, or, you know, you've had a bit of whatever you can take, and it's like, okay, fancy meeting you here. Let's go back to your place. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And then, you know, maybe I fall asleep, but then I wake up and it's just like, it was nice. No cup of coffee. I really can go home and do sadako.
If you really, really like some kind of food, you can't eat something else. I mean, you're really, really hungry, you have to have what you want. You can't just go and have anything.
I like sex very much, but I'm also one of these people who, when I date or when I'm involved with someone, I take it quite seriously. So I certainly, like, I've never had a one-night stand, even though I love sex. I just always think it's going to be so much more amazing and beautiful and powerful, and everything will feel better if you really know the person and you're really involved. So maybe that's something that I sort of regret, that I wish that I were a little bit more loosey-goosey in that way, that I would have more casual sex and feel okay about it. And it's not really a moral issue. I just think that the sex itself is better when you're with someone that you really trust and know, and they know you and they know what you like and you know what they like, and it's just more intense and powerful.
Yeah, like, I mean, all throughout my life, not even in Berlin, I usually end up falling for people that are somewhat unavailable because they're usually on holiday, and Berlin's a really, like, hard town for that because everyone's on fucking holiday here. So if you're not on holiday, you're working all the time, and I probably know you already, you know, like, and then it becomes really difficult. Like, it's like, I may want to get in your pants, but I probably don't want to, like, see you every day. But, you know, and then every now and then you meet, like, a lucky little visitor that kind of, you know, I don't know, tugs at the heartstrings, and that's nice, but then they leave, and then you're just left with another hole. So.
I don't know, I think Well, actually, this question being kind of inspired by a debate I read on Facebook. I suppose the experimentation's kind of gone. It has to be hardcore. It can't just be sort of fun and, you know, I don't know, just sort of, I don't know, semi-erect and a bit sort of dirty and didn't really work out, but you have fun and you enjoy the time spending with someone. I think it always has to be this extreme, you know, this the perfect thing. And then as well, I suppose there's so much pressure. I mean, I suppose in a weird way, once you go over the barrier, the border with some people, then it's hard to turn that person into a friend or take the relationship a little bit further. It's hard, sometimes when you're sexual with someone, it's hard afterwards to be anything but sexual with that person. And that puts loads of pressure on sex.
Family.
Family. Okay, I've got my father, my mother, everyone in my family's alive. I've never had a really great family tragedy. I've never had to watch anyone in my family die in front of me. My parents are separated.
Family is super, super important to me, and I think I live in a constant state of wanting to have a family of my own because I don't really have much of a family. I had a really, really, really close, wonderful, loving relationship with my mother, but she died several years ago. And basically since she died, I think I've sort of been searching, traveling the world. I ran away from California shortly after she died just because I couldn't really be in San Francisco and be in the places where we had all these amazing memories and where we were just together all the time. And so I moved to Paris, and then I've just every couple of years keep moving to a new country. And even though San Francisco still in my memories remains my favorite city, my favorite place to be, it's so hard to imagine going back and living there because she won't be there. And since I don't have a close relationship at all, I have a really, really, really awful relationship with my father. And we didn't have much extended family. So I think I'm sort of always searching for either friendships or people in my life who will fulfill the spaces of brothers and sisters and fathers and mothers, or just thinking that, well, someday I'd really like to have a husband and kids and this kind of very normal everyday life. And I don't care so much about the white picket fence, but I definitely want to have a family unit of my own again someday.
I have weird family stories, very weird, but I think that everyone has them. I'm very, very close to my mom. She's the most important person in my whole life. I could do anything for her. Give my life or kill someone, whatever. And with my father, it's a little bit different. I wouldn't even know what kind of relationship we have. It just changes because he's a very moody person, so as his mood changes, our relationship changes. And I don't blame him for all the bad things that he's done to me and to my mom, because he never had a father, so he doesn't know what that role involves. And I guess just now that I moved out of the house, we're starting to get a nice relationship. I mean, it's like, oh, I love you too, kisses, how are you doing, this is great, oh, you're a great kid, and this and that. But before that, we've been through not talking phase and screaming out loud phase, and you don't live in my house, but I still see you, but I never see you, and you don't care, and you ask me, what school do I go? And those kind of things. He doesn't really know me. I'm full of tattoos. He's never seen one of them. And he knows nothing about my sex life, my nightlife. But I don't blame him. I guess I love him in some kind of way. I mean, he's my dad, so dad is always dad. But I don't know, it always can go better. You can always have more than what you want and what you have. So.
My dad, we have a terrible relationship, but it's maybe even that's the wrong way to say it, because we just don't have a relationship at all. we have no relationship. He doesn't know my birthday, he doesn't know my middle name, and it's not as if my mother was the single mom and we never knew our father at all. I mean, they were married always, my whole life, until she died, and he traveled a lot for business, for work, so he was often living in Europe when we were in California. And a few times a year we would travel and go visit your father, and it was so not like what I think of as a family. It wasn't, let's sit down and be in our pajamas and chatting and laughing and talking. It was like, you're going to have dinner with your father, so we have to put on a fancy dress and be very well behaved and eat using the correct utensils, and everything had to be very formal, and he would barely speak to us. And then, you know, as soon as we're finished with our dinner, the nanny would come and take us away, and then that was to say goodnight to your father, and it was all very formal and weird. And that was pretty much my relationship with him growing up, until much later, at which point he came back to California full time, and he had his own health problems, and I tried to be more involved in his life, and he didn't want it. He just was very open and said, look, I really never wanted children. I don't want children now. I had children, technically, because your mother is the love of my life, and I love her more than anything, and I wanted to make her happy, and she wanted children, so I gave them to her. Like, as if, I don't know, we were a diamond ring or a fur coat or some gift like he would give her. It was, I will give you children there, are you happy now? But he didn't realize we're these humans, and we wanted a relationship with him. My mother felt terribly guilty, always. She always would tell us that she thought, well, once he has children, he'll realize what a joy they are and how wonderful it is to be a father. And then she said it never happened. And he just didn't want it. He didn't want to be a part of our lives. And still doesn't. And has very clearly told me the last time I saw him, which is over 1.5 years ago, I only want you to come to my funeral. And that's the only obligation I would like to ask of you. Otherwise, live your life. So that's what I'm doing.
As an American, I live halfway across the world from my family. And as a working Berliner, I certainly don't make enough fucking money to go visit them. I have this horrible, horrible dream. And this is terrible because I don't really wish this, but the next time I'm going to see my family is for a funeral or something, you know, like in some shape where I have to go back and there's no option. Because let's face it, like if I get a bit of extra money here, I actually want to go see the world. Like I was trapped across the Atlantic Ocean for so goddamn long. My family's like pretty cool. They're, you know, like really supportive and all that. And I get money from them time to time. I'm not proud of it, but I, you know, like, it's pretty typical. I don't come from like a traumatic space or anything like that. And so I've had all the same trappings that everybody does, the disapproval, the groans, the like issues with me coming out. But, you know, it's generally like a few month period where they can't handle it and then they get over it. And then it's like, okay, Walter, anyways, did you know that your grandma made an amazing apple pie for Mother's Day? It was awesome. I loved it.
Things are getting worse for us instead of better. So as we grow older and we're all getting older, things are getting worse instead of better. And that's a problem. I think everyone thought it would just be this crazy years of just all these kids growing up fighting, and then at the end it would be just sort of calm and we could all make funny conclusions and laugh about it. But things are getting harder financially, and financially perspectives are getting narrowed. People are tired. People don't have those energy as they used to have before. Everyone's stuck. It's not easy to get out now. I suppose you can't really put them in. I suppose you can't really apply them to everyday situations, but that's generally sort of the feeling. But maybe the most, I don't know, the problems with the family. I suppose that, I don't know, it's such, maybe sometimes I think we're kind of scared to look at to be honest about things. And it's so weird because my family don't have any money, but even just that general emotional snobbery, if you want a better word, sometimes I think they're afraid to look something in the face and say, this is shit, where we're going is shit, we've got nothing, we can't get any further. I think sometimes you'd rather just look away and say, oh, it doesn't affect me. But the problems with my family, I suppose we just didn't have many chances to experience different things as well.
Weight, body issues, and self-esteem.
Okay. Well, let's see. I think I kind of fluctuate up and down in so many ways, both with weight, but also with my own self-esteem. Recently, I was going through a phase where I was so just uncomfortable in my own skin and feeling like, well, I'm sure weight has something to do with it. But then, I don't know, then I started doing this yoga. I did this 1 month of Bikram yoga, and I didn't really lose any weight, but somehow it just brings you so much more in focus with your own body and looking at yourself every day in this mirror for 90 minutes and just started and feeling so good during those 90 minutes while you're staring at yourself that it, I don't know, kind of transformed my own self-esteem with more than anything within that 1 month time. While my body didn't really change that much, I noticed this huge change in my mentality and my attitude of feeling just like accepting and happy and sexy and attractive more than I have been in these past months for sure, which was really interesting because, you know, I'd get on the scale and I hadn't actually lost any weight or really changed so much, but my attitude about my body had changed like drastically. I would look at myself and in the mirror in my yoga class and be like, wow, I look great.
Body image is tough. I mean, it constantly changes, you know? I mean, it's kind of like in relation, you know, directly proportional to the amount you're feeling desired at any time, you know? I mean, I guess it's like, if I'm not getting any sex or anything for, I don't know, a month or something like that, it's like, of course you start to dwell on certain things. Like, I'm pretty conscious of my nose. I know my nose is big and I got picked on it a lot when I was a child because I don't know if this is true, but I had this fantasy that my nose grew first and then the rest of my body did, and then like kids were quick to pick on that. Now I don't find it to be such a problem, especially in Europe where there's like specific groups of people that already have like typified noses, you know, like you can tell Italian noses per se, or like I can see a Scandinavian nose from a mile away. So it doesn't bother me as much.
My breasts have been exactly the same size since I was like 14 or 15 years old. And I was really petite then, and they just popped out. And there were just these things that just erupted on my body, and I hated them. And they brought so much attention because I was a much smaller person then too, and they just had these huge things. And so even if I gain weight or lose weight or gain weight or lose weight, my breasts stay exactly the same as they are. And that's weird. I think usually normal people that they lose weight and they also lose weight from, if they're women, from their breasts, but mine stay exactly the same. So it's just sort of one of those things I've always attached a negative feeling towards, having people stare at you, or you can't just walk somewhere or sit down in a cafe without somebody kind of staring. And I think maybe that also goes in just to general women issues too, feeling like an object rather than a human person. So yeah, okay, so things like that have seemed non-changing. I wish I were taller. I always wish I were taller. And yet I don't wear high heels. So I don't know if it's just that I'm resigned to this fact that I'm not going to be tall and I just have to deal with it. But I really don't like it. I'd like to be taller. If there's a physical thing could change. Although I did have a lot of issues with freckles for a long time. I hated my freckles, which similarly like my breasts, I didn't have freckles as a kid. And then they just popped out when I was a teenager. Like when I was 16 or so, they just sort of all came out on my face, my chest, my shoulders, my arms, like I was a leper or something. It was ridiculous. But now I don't know. I've come to terms with the freckles. So maybe as I'm getting older, I'm starting to accept myself and all my flaws or characteristics.
My biggest body issue generally comes from my masculinity, because being a relatively non-feminine gay man, I mean, I'm pretty sure I have some feminine qualities, or I have a lot, but I'm not by any stretch a queen. And I don't really like go for that either. I kind of like masculine men as well, or masculine boyish men. And they tend to not see me as very masculine because I'm small and like skinny, and it's just like, I mean, even straight men confuse. I mean, I get the wrong fucking bathroom like thing all the time. I've been walking out of the white trash bathroom, and some guy like went, "Oh shit, sorry," I walked to the girls' bathroom thinking that he'd come to the wrong bathroom. And I'm like, you know what, fuck off, it's fine, but like, you know, I don't know, it's like a lot to do with like how, you know, your body type fits into gender stereotype, and it's kind of sad, you know.
I've got big body issues since I can remember, since I was little. I was the chubby one with little boobies in 2nd grade, and everyone would make fun of me and call me fatso and this and that. I started to accept my body a little bit as years went by, but I still don't like myself. I cannot look at myself naked in the mirror, and I guess because of this I have trouble with my sex life too, because I'm not so sure of myself and confident, so I guess that affects on my partner life and partner choosing. So I guess the day that I'll see myself as a pretty girl, I'll be more confident and have all the sex I've never had in all these years. Not that I haven't had, but you can always have more. You always deserve to have more. So
I suppose I kind of came to a point where I just I suppose I couldn't really, I felt paralyzed because I was so feeling worthless, feeling just total lack of self-esteem, just total, I just felt lower than anything, lower than the low. And I felt paralyzed, and I used to be in my bedroom, I thought, I can't go out of the bedroom, I can't go out because the light looks like this. I can't be who I want to be because of this. And I suppose in the end, trying to conquer all these things, I just began not to think of myself. I just began to not think I even had a body. I never looked in the mirror. I never, even at the moment, speaking to a camera is actually terrifying because I'm afraid I'll see the own picture on the other side. And I just pretended that I didn't exist, and it was so liberating. But it's hard as well because it's kind of an unstable liberation because you haven't accepted yourself. You've just denied that you sort of exist. But it was just a way of surviving. So I would say, yes, I have body issues, but I'm surviving them, but they're still there.
Addictions.
Addictions. I don't think I have any substance addictions. I think I really don't seem to have the personality that forms addictions, which is really fortunate because I like to have fun and I like to enjoy myself, and I am totally irresponsible in a lot of ways that I think if I could be an addicted person, I probably would be and would have issues with that big time, and thankfully I don't.
I hate drugs. I think drugs are so selfish. I think the idea of just fuck the world, fuck the way it is, I'm going to take this, goodbye reality. But in that I understand it. I mean, who wants to, I can understand people want to escape from reality. So I hate them and I understand them. And I think it's dangerous to say, I hate drugs, get them away from me, don't look at me. Because drugs are just such an everyday part of people's lives that if you say, I hate them, people who take them are like this, then people continue to take drugs and are totally immersed in drugs, but they never share it with you. They feel ashamed, they're in a worse position. I think the most important thing to do is really be open and to speak about drugs.
I don't like addicts. I really don't. But like, it's an interesting question because like, you've got like all ends of the spectrums in Berlin. Drugs are really accepted. Alcohol is really accepted. And it's kind of this thing you do not only because you enjoy it, which I happen to really enjoy, but because everybody else is doing it. But on the other end, that breeds like the opposite like kind of attitude towards it, like especially in the left, like people that are really hardcore left, I find them to sometimes be like, drugs can destroy everything, so I don't touch drugs or alcohol. And then I get, you know, like I'll be around these non-drug using or drinking people, and then I'm labeled as like an alcoholic, and I'm by no stretch of the means an alcoholic. Like, yes, I probably have a beer or two a day, past 6 o'clock, when work is over, or whatever, but I'm not like drinking behind the counter at my desk. Like,
I'm terrified of drugs. I have this really cheesy, maybe 60s horror movie idea of myself that one day I'm going to take acid and just go crazy and, I don't know, do probably the most embarrassing thing ever, like smear shit all over the window of somewhere where I work while my roommates and my workmates look at me in shock. So I'm really scared of drugs. Yeah, I mean, and I find it sad as well. I have taken drugs before, and I found it so, it was so depressing, the idea of how happy is happy. And if you reach the happiest point, I mean, what then? I mean, I just thought it was so depressing. I mean, wouldn't it be completely tragic if you were at some party and then you took something and you reached the happiest point and then realised that that's the happiest you can get? I mean, that would be sort of terrifying. And so I don't know, I don't want to take it. I think reality is beautiful.
I could spend so much time talking about drugs. I guess I was pretty young when I started. I don't know, 15, 16. It's relative to what you... Can you say relative in English? Okay. I love doing drugs, and I've done a lot, many kinds, many situations, with different people, with different points and what I wanted to get from the drugs. But fortunately, I've never had serious addictions. I can maybe have too much if I have the possibility, but I never get to the point of freaking out if I don't have something and go stealing in my mom's house like many people do. And I've seen that too.
junkies are the worst. I've been ripped off by junkies in the past. I mean, it's just incredible, like where the moral barometer goes on that end. But people don't tend to do so much heroin here. Or maybe they do, and it's, I don't know, it's not in my scene. Like, the people I see use MDMA and speed and whatnot. I don't know, I know a couple speed freaks. That's kind of scary. I mean, they just get really skinny and don't eat very often. And very obsessive with certain things, but in the weird kind of way, you know, like building shelves for days on end or something like that. And again, here I am smoking and drinking coffee.
Dreams, goals, okay. I have no idea. I came here in this city hoping that something would just fall down from the sky and be like, hey, that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I don't want to choose because I like so many things. I like painting, I paint, I like music, I make music, I used to play music, and I like acrobatics. I started last year doing aerial acrobatics, and it's just amazing, it's great. I would like to, when I grow up, I would like to put all these things together and create my own job.
I don't know. I mean, I just want to do something that doesn't make me feel like I'm wasting the fuck out of my day. And I kind of found it in Berlin, but I'm like acutely aware of how like rare that can be, or like that people can do it here and materialize that sort of thing, but they also have to, you know, do a lot of shit on the side in order to make that work. You know, it's not as easy as making it all gel in one. And I do that too, I guess. Like, I have my side jobs, but like, I wanted to be a writer, and I kind of wanted to have like access to everything. It's not just like my scene of like all the weirdos and freaks, which I find really appealing, but I want to peek outside and see the Berlin Alley too, you know, or whatever, go to the Deutsche Guggenheim every now and then, at least just to make fun of it. But I don't know, like, I kind of reached that point. I'm pretty satisfied at this moment in my life.
It's actually so liberating to say, I'm actually not going to be famous. I'm not going to be this adored person. I'm not going to be remembered forever. I'm not going to be saying amazing things that people are never going to forget. And I just find it in a weird way so liberating, just saying, yeah, I'm a loser and I'm dying a loser, and I find that actually liberating.
When I was younger and I was on this very, go to these private schools and go to a good university and finish from a good university, and then you're supposed to go to graduate school and get married and do this and do this. And I've somehow taken a slightly different path, certainly than what I anticipated for myself, which seems to be just go with the flow and follow your heart, and if something inspires you or excites you, then just follow it until it no longer inspires or excites you and you find something new.
I don't know, I love that bit at the end of Death of the Salesman, when he dies and then his wife says, but we just finished paying the mortgage today. And I just think that moment's so beautiful, and it just sums up so much of the, we're working towards what? How can you be so arrogant? You're just going to die. Don't be so arrogant.
I came from a family or financial situation that was always really, really comfortable, and never thought about money, never worried about money, never saw people in my life worried about money, and just sort of expected always, or I just imagined this is how I grew up, so I just always thought this is how the world works, and everybody's comfortable and everyone's okay and no one really worries about money or finances. And it wasn't until many, many years later when I put myself into the real world, and I don't know if I'm even in the real world yet, that I started seeing that other people really are concerned about money, and it can cause stress and anxiety in their life, and they take this time and energy to make sure they have money and they're earning money and they have responsible jobs and this kind of thing. And I feel perhaps the life path that I've begun to follow is nothing to do with money or earning money. I'm just kind of doing my own thing and just always believing that, oh, somehow everything will work out. It will always be fine. And I just was never taught to worry about money, so I don't. And I think this is actually a big problem, because that's very maybe naive and unrealistic way to go about life and the world.
Well, I guess my social background and economic woes pretty much stem from being an American in Europe at this point, being a migrant. I mean, I'm aware of my privilege as an American, and it's pretty high compared to the rest of the world, and it didn't give me much trouble coming here. People were basically, oh, you're American, no problem, get in, just don't be a burden. The thing is I'm still not an EU citizen, so I don't have a lot of the protection or the rights that EU people do. So if I lose my job, I, for instance, can't get Heart Sphere, and it's kind of it's like a bone, or it's a sticking point for me, because I know people on Heart Sphere here who use it to make their art. They get Heart Sphere and then they have the free time to get their art, but it is a little frustrating to know sometimes that I work really, really hard, and granted I work in a job that I love, and I'd probably want to be there anyway. I don't want to be on Heart Sphere because I like my job, and some people get Heart Sphere here and get a lot of privileges and don't have to work for it, and that's a little upsetting. And then to mention privilege around that situation, people go, oh, no, this is social justice, which it is, and I do believe in it that way. But it is one thing when it's when it's poor families who can't find a job and getting on Heart Sphere. That's one thing, but it can be a little frustrating when I know white middle class to upper class European kids that grew up in good homes that are basically on Heart Sphere have figured out how to work the system to get it because they want to do their art. I really don't, I don't hold a grudge against that at all. I don't fault anyone for that sort of thing, but it's difficult to see. It's difficult to know that if I ever had to be on Heart Sphere, I'd be shit out of luck.
My social background is mixed, actually, and I have a weird background in Ireland because I have a posh voice, which is actually sort of misleading, because what I always sum it up in this sentence, our well-to-do granny was getting sick, so we sent her off to the nursing home, and we took her house. So financially, I would have come from a working class background. We were 6 kids. I was raised by most of my life by a single parent. We had fuck all money as we were younger, but we lived in a nice middle class area. So I have a lot of the personal problems of poverty, but very little of the social. I mean, I never, what loads of people experience in Ireland, you know, you're born at the end of the housing estate, and then you walk to the other side of the estate to go to the factory when you finish school, and that's how it goes, you know what I mean? And I think there are the social problems of poverty, but I didn't really experience them so much. I have to say, I mean, I've gone so many times just with really little to eat and just eating peas for weeks on end and potatoes, and it scares you and it makes you feel like I've got to get out, I'm never going to go there again, I don't want to be that person again, and it makes you very resistant, I suppose, especially since I've left home, because I always did things on my own, I didn't get any support. I mean, I've always lived in a city, and if you don't have money in your pocket, you're in a prison. You're not in a city, you're in a prison. You can't move. Money has so much to do with mobility. You know, move the space, you go to a cafe, to get a train, to go to a bar, to bring your groceries home. When you've no money, you feel the overwhelming feeling of the inability to move.
We've never been wealthy. Hey mom, I want the super badass toy that everybody has, and I couldn't get all those things when I was little, like a Game Boy. Oh my god, I wanted a Game Boy so much for so long, and then of course I never got one. And so that's why probably now I have this big repulsion towards technology. I don't want to know anything about it. I mean, I have a computer. I kind of know how to use it, but that's it. We've always been kind of, how we say, tirare la cinghia. You have to pull your belt and keep it tight. I came here in Berlin to start again, have a new life, and maybe one day take my mom and put her in a nice house and say, okay, you don't have to worry about working anymore, about the rent, I'll deal with it, and you just live your life. And I had 4 different jobs before coming here because I wanted to make money and just get away from there.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm living the dream, social welfare. So I mean, I'm not putting any money towards wars, which is commendable. So I would say, yeah. I suppose. I mean, if I want to save for something, I have to just eat less. I'm on that kind of level. It's sort of like I need a clock, eat less stuff. So I suppose I feel very directly related to money. But now, in the last while, I've had a bit of work, and I don't know, the feeling when the notes go into your wallet and you close it and there's money inside of it and you feel safe. It's just such a strange feeling. You feel so safe, and I don't know, like you've got a little bit of electricity in your shoes. But just knowing that the bit of money's in your wallet when you do a little bit of work is a great feeling. It's a great feeling.
My background, though, on its own is pretty privileged itself. I mean, I come from a white middle to upper class family who doesn't really pay my way. I get a bit of help from them from time to time, but like, granted, if anything super bad happened to me, I'd have somewhere to go. I just, you know, am pretty intent on working it out for myself.